Investigative journalist Jonathan Thompson has covered environmental issues in the West for more than 2 decades. Mr. Thompson was once the editor of High Country News, and he has a new book out about the Gold King mine spill. He sat down recently with correspondent Laura Paskus to talk about what happened in 2015 and how it may continue to impact the region.
Jonathan Thompson, welcome to New Mexico in Focus. We're here today to talk about your new book, River of Lost Souls, the science, politics, and greed behind the Gold King mine disaster. Can you tell us, the River of Lost Souls, where is that?
That is the Animas River, is the official name, and it runs from the San Juan Mountains in southwestern Colorado down through Durango and then to Farmington, New Mexico, where it runs into the San Juan River.
And why do they call it that?
That's a good question. Actually, the first guy who called it something like that was the Spanish explorer Juan Rivera, and he actually called it, it turns out, River of Souls, so Rio de las Animas. Mm-hmm. And then sometime later, probably in like the first instance I've been able to find in the 1880s, somebody started calling it River of Lost Souls. I guess they thought that sounded better. And then they put a story with it too, why they called it River of Lost Souls. And they said that they thought that Juan Rivera called it that because either a bunch of Ute people had fallen in the river and drowned, or maybe some of his guides had fallen in the river and drowned, or something like that. So it's kind of a false story, but and a false name, but it's what stuck, and it's what I grew up knowing the river as, and so that's why I use that title.
All right. So in 2015, a crew doing exploratory cleanup work at an abandoned mine in southern Colorado, there was an accident and mine waste was released into the river. For our viewers who maybe aren't familiar with what happened, can you kind of give us the rundown on what happened that day?
Yeah, so this was the Gold King mine, and it was up above Silverton, Colorado, and it was long. The last time it was worked was probably in the 1920s. And with any consequence, and it was draining water like a lot of abandoned mines do, and that water was acidic and loaded with heavy metals. And at some point along the road, the roof collapsed of the mine, and that created a dam. And so that water, instead of running out, some of it was backing up and backing up and backing up, and that happened actually for years. And then in 2015. The EPA had been kind of called in to take a look at some mines and try to see what maybe they could do. And this was one of them. They had just finished up on another mine, and it was getting towards the end of the season, and they were going to put this one off, but the contractor decided, or somebody decided, to go up and take a look. And they were just going to poke around and see what was going on there. And so it had been backfilled. The opening of the mine had been backfilled with dirt. And the EPA, these contractors started sort of digging into that dirt with an excavator. So it was this big scoop, kind of they were trying to go in from the top so that they could look in and kind of see what was going on. But instead they basically breached the dam that was holding all that water back. And at first it just started, kind of was spurting out, and then it was this torrent, this huge torrent, 3 million gallons of this acidic, heavy metal laden water just burst out, and it was bright orange.
And what happened after that? Who took responsibility, or who was at fault, and who was affected downstream?
It turned basically the river orange for probably 100 miles downstream. So all the way down to Farmington, and then the San Juan River as well. And so basically everybody was affected to some extent downstream. The effects were sort of harsher for the people who had stronger connections to the river, it was kind of strange because Silverton, when it went through Silverton, the first town, it was definitely the strongest. The concentration of the chemicals and the metals in there was the strongest there, but it didn't really affect them that much because they don't really do much with the river. They don't have agriculture. It's too cold to swim, and they don't get their drinking water out of there. But as you went downstream to Durango, you had rafting industry that had to shut down for several days. You have irrigators. And then as you go further downstream and you hit the Navajo Nation, there they have a much stronger connection to the water. So even though the concentrations weren't as strong, they were more deeply affected for sure by it.
So who operated that mine? Why was that mine out there in the first place?
It was started back in 1887 by just this Swedish immigrant. Like so many people who were in those mining towns, he had come to America to get a better life. And he had seen this place and thought that there was going to be a vein there of gold. And so he staked a claim and he quietly worked it for a while, and then he died. He probably died because he overworked, because this was like his side job. He would go up there at night and do this by hand by himself, which was kind of weird because back then they would normally stake a claim and then get Eastern capitalists to finance it. After he died, his wife, his widow, sold the claim, and these basically then is when the Eastern capitalists came in and turned it into one of the most profitable mines in the region. And it went gangbusters until about 1908, and there was a big fire, and there was some mismanagement issues, and it started going downhill, and it shut down in basically the 1920s. And it was never really mined again except for a little stint in the 80s. But this is a story that's repeated over and over and over again in the San Juan Mountains and across mining country. All over the West. And you've got these things everywhere. So it's sort of a situation, it's sort of the same old story kind of thing. And it was owned, or it still is owned, by a guy who wanted to try to mine it again, but never was able to get the right permits or was able to get enough money. And so it never happened, which is probably very fortunate for him, because had he gone in there and gotten permits for it, and then that would have happened, he would have been liable. But instead it was basically the EPA who was liable for the situation.
So can you talk about that a little bit in terms of that trend of abandoned mines in Colorado and in the western United States and other places, I'm guessing? Who becomes responsible for cleaning up those mines, taking care of them, paying for the remediation?
In most cases, the taxpayer, unfortunately, because of federal laws that were not there, for so many years. The 1872 mining law, which still operates and still is intact, unbelievably. That basically said, you could go and stake a claim, you could mine a piece of land. Back originally, after 5 years, you actually got ownership of that land, pure straight title to it. But you wouldn't have to pay any royalties on it. There was no state laws or anything for many, many years that said that you had to clean up afterwards. So basically, there's no laws. So that's how it worked out to be that way. And then over time, laws have been put in place, and so you can't do that anymore. But for these mines that were already developed, there's not much you can do. So, and that were already abandoned by the time those laws were put in place. So there's not much you can do. So basically the taxpayer ends up footing the bill, unless there's, in some cases, if there's another mining operation going on nearby, the EPA might be able to go after them and say, hey, you got to help us pay to clean up these abandoned mines.
Okay, so you grew up in Durango, right? And you've lived in Silverton, two sort of mining towns that have changed quite a bit. Do you have a sense of how Western towns that have relied on mining in the past can kind of move into a more sustainable economic future in the 21st century?
Yeah, if you look at Telluride or Aspen or Park City, Utah, these are all towns that were hardcore mining towns, and they moved on. It's been more, and Durango moved on. Durango was never kind of what you'd consider a pure mining town. It was more of a mining, service town where they would service the mines that were far away. Silverton was a true mining town, and Silverton has a little bit harder of a road to hoe because they are very isolated. They're never going to have an airport there because you wouldn't want to land and take off in an airplane there. Ski areas, it's pretty remote, steep terrain. So they do have a little ski area, but it's never going to be a super resort. So it's tough for it to kind of follow the same path. So Silverton is definitely going to have to find its own way. And you know, my goal or my ideal future for Silverton would be that it would be a laboratory for these abandoned mine cleanups. You know, a place where you could truly have a restoration economy.
Your book also touches on the energy economy in the San Juan Basin. Looking ahead to the future in the San Juan Basin and oil and gas development, what would you like to see happening there?
Yeah, I mean that. So I did include that, and it's of course not related to the Gold King mine, but the reason I did that is because I wanted to show that the context in which the Gold King mine spill occurred, and that there are other things that are maybe worse than the Gold King mine spill happening every day, and that includes a lot of the development in oil and gas. And in that case, you know, I mean, the San Juan Basin has been so heavily drilled for so long that it's going to be tough to, and now it's kind of going away. You know, natural gas prices are very low. The industry is fading, even though it's clinging on very desperately. But my hope is that Farmington and those communities there get proactive right now and start trying to figure out how to diversify their economy and figure out what's next, because this isn't going to last forever. And in the meantime, I would also hope that they would put some of their ingenuity and resources into solving some of the problems that they've caused, that the industry has caused. For example, the methane hotspot that I think everybody knows about. You know, figuring out ways to build an industry around fixing leaks and reducing methane emissions would be great.
Right. Well, thank you, Jonathan Thompson, for joining us on New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you.